This is the CONORAD alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Oh, for 5 years. 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I'm Toolman Tim. Today is May the 19th, 2024, and this is episode 449 of Workshop Radio. That close to us, almost a milestone. 450 will be next Thursday, but it is great to be back. I hope you guys are doing as well as I am. Okay, it has been one hell of a road trip, so thanks for being here for me, guys. I appreciate it. So a couple quick thoughts here. The first thing I got to share with you guys is I got to thank my absolute incredible wife. Becky, you guys know her. She's incredible. She went to a lot of the events with me, but I could not have done what I just did, the crazy 57-day road trip, without her support. I couldn't have done this incredible adventure where I went in the woods and worked on Delinquent's Gully as much as I did. I would not have been able to do what I did if her and I hadn't have built the businesses that we built. But more than that, having her support, because I know that it was a hell of a time every so often for her. She put up with a lot. Got to thank the girls for, sound like I got an acceptance speech, but I wanted to make sure that I put this in here before anything else. The girls took care of the dogs when we were on the road, and I missed them like hell. Not the dogs. I mean, I missed them too, but I missed the girls more than anything. And then, guys, I got to thank you guys, this incredible friggin' community. You allowed me to kind of take a bit of a break from the regular schedule of content creation. I know it was a lot more miss than hit while I was gone, but thank you for that, so that I could run off into the woods, work my ass off on Delinquent's Gully, attend 5 events, speak 8 or 9 times altogether, and meet a ton of delinquents in person. So just great to see you. Great to be back, guys. I am excited. We got a great crew in here already. Where are we going to start? Who do we have? I saw Jeremy, one step closer first. Good to see you. Byron Roberts, great to see you. Wired Edge Workshop, Digger, Nate Lemaster, Angie Marie, Tim Riley. Great to see all of you out there. One Step Closer wants to know how the manifesto is coming along. Well, the cabin has been extended extensively, and I'm not really sure if it qualifies as an Uncle Ted cabin anymore. It's almost a home away from home, but man, I'll tell you, we'll talk all about it. I got so much to share with you tonight. We'll see where we go and how we get there. And yeah, hey, Mitch, good to see you as well. So I didn't know how to wrap one of the most insane road trips. Well, no, not one of the most insane road trip I ever took. I didn't know how to really wrap it up when I got back, but I've been home for about 5 days, been working my ass off since I got back here, just installed a retaining wall right behind me against the fence to keep the critters in, because, well, anyway, it's a long story. I will show you some pictures when it's completely done, but we ran 65 stones short because they didn't have any. Beth Emily, good to see you in here. Mitch, great to see you. So I figured, you know what? Why don't we just, let's work our way through the road trip and share some of the crazy stories, share some of the lessons, share some of the gear. And if you got questions or you just want to shout out, we'll just kind of let this be a cool, laid back, catching up event. And then anyway, we'll talk about what next Thursday is going to bring. Backwoods Butcher, great to see you. And one more person, well, lots of people I need to thank or shout out, but hey, Chris Dixon, great to see you. Brian Alexevich, about 10 days ago, we were standing in the gully and it was a warm day and we worked and we were saying our goodbyes. And he told me, he said, Tim, don't do any content on the road on the way home. He said, it'll be there when you get home. Spend the next 7 days on the road with your wife and have a little mini vacation. And we did that the best we could. And that was the best advice I could get from anybody. It was awesome. I needed it at that moment, at that time. So anyway, here we go. Stories from the road. These are going to be in no order. I wish I'd have kept them. I tried to kind of write them down as we went, but there's just so many things out there. But the very first one, this was an insane one, and I might have shared this with you. Damn, I almost got run off the road by the cops one day, and not because I was doing anything crazy, but I was going back to my favorite dude who sells us the homemade wood stoves, and he did fire pits for us. And I was just going along. I don't know, I think it was about a 45-mile-an-hour road, blind crest, and all of a sudden 2 unmarked police cars come across, and no exaggeration, at least 80 miles an hour on a road that should never have been doing it. Damn near ran me off the road. He had to swerve to get back into his lane, and I thought he was going to ditch it, but he didn't. One of the craziest road stories I had while we were traveling, but it wasn't, I don't know if it was the craziest, but I would say the craziest was one morning, Brian and Jamie and we went to the Amish store, which we'll talk about. And on the way back, we detoured through Savannah. And if you didn't know this, there is a Savannah in Tennessee. I know, right? Had no idea. So there's a Savannah in Tennessee. It's really close to where I live. That's not really pertinent to the story, other than the fact that we saw some insane road rage while we were going. Brian looked at me. I kind of kept my distance in the truck, and he said, we're going to see somebody get plugged right here. But it was one of those, with 3 lanes. You got a suicide lane in the middle and then 2 on the other side. Somebody cut somebody else off. Then somebody brake checked somebody. Then they come to the lights, and then this crackheadish looking dude hops out of his vehicle and just storms at the other truck, kind of pointing his finger and yelling. We don't know what happened from there. We want to suppose that maybe there might have been some brandishing going on, because the dude just kind of tuck-tailed and took off after that. But whatever it was insane. I've never seen that intense road rage up close. It was a hell of a time. And then probably the only other excitement on the road that I got to see like in the actual driving was on our way to Nate and Aaron's. I was on I cannot remember what interstate it is. I want to say 35 or something like that. And I might be wrong. We were driving along, Becky and I, and all of a sudden we heard what we thought sounded like a shotgun go off behind us. And it was a transport truck, just blew his tire. And I mean, that was as loud as I've ever heard on the road. So those were some kind of interesting times. Here's another cool one. If you guys remember my story from I think it was last road trip. Anyway, I ran into a cool dude at Waffle House, and he paid for Becky and I's breakfast. So the day after Nicole's LFTN workshop, we sit down at Waffle House, we get ready to pay, and the lady's like, oh no, it's been taken care of. And I'm like, really? That's kind of strange. This is the second time this has ever happened to me in a Waffle House, and I don't live here either. So I look around. She's like, do you see anybody you know? And I'm like, well, not really. And over in the back, I see these devilish little eyes peeking up, trying to hide from me. And it was Hog Eye Harry. And if you guys know Hog Eye Harry, him and his wife are some of the sweetest people you will ever meet. Just down to earth, always trying to help somebody out. And the bugger surprised me and paid for our breakfast. So that was a nice surprise. So we got one more conversation with those guys before they got to hit the road, but that was fun. So anyway, what a surprise. The eclipse. Where were you guys for the eclipse? Anybody want to share? I know we didn't talk about that a whole lot, but while we were driving, so Fred and Sarah invited us up. We just couldn't make it work. That was kind of the theme of this trip, was we had more invitations than we had time to carry on with folks, but that's neither here nor there. So we couldn't make it up to see them, but we were going back to Nashville to hang out for a day or two just before the girls flew out. And we ended up watching the eclipse from the roof of the Green Hills Mall in Nashville. Just one of these random things. We didn't even plan on being somewhere to see it. We had just kind of said, nah, we're going to don't worry about it. And so we just happened to be, Becky was looking for Hey Dudes. If you guys don't know what Hey Dudes are, apparently they're a new type of shoe. I now own a pair that I have never seen before, haven't tried them on. We'll see. They're supposed to be lightweight, comfortable. This is not an advertisement for Hey Dudes. Just so happened to be that's where we were. So Becky's in there looking for shoes, and I say, hey, I'm going to take the girls out. We're going to go across this breezeway and up to the roof of the underground parking. We're going to watch the eclipse. And it was surreal, just with all these strangers you never knew before. Everybody just standing around staring. It was almost like a 4-minute party. Everybody got right excited. Now, the thing was, it was super overcast in Nashville. But for about 30 seconds, right where the sun was, the clouds parted and we got to see, well, I shouldn't have looked at it for very long, but we got to see it nonetheless. So that was kind of cool. It, you know, it wasn't a full eclipse, but it was like a 95% or something like that. So I'll never forget where I was. Becky got out in time to come enjoy it with us. But more than that, it was just rather surreal. We're on the roof of this building. You could look around and see other groups of people on other roofs all across Nashville. It almost felt like Independence Day or something like that. One Step Closer said we got the full eclipse experience in Dallas, mixed clouds, but we were able to see the finale. Awesome. And Haas said, didn't see it in Cali, but got to see the Northern Lights. Yes, we got to see the Northern Lights at Nate and Aaron's last weekend as well. That was kind of fun. Also, if you haven't tried Dr. Pepper Creamy Coconut, zero sugar yet, now, if you don't drink zero sugar stuff, totally fine. I get it. But holy cow, if you like coconut, it's there. I think I mentioned this on another live stream. I had an awesome conversation with an elderly lady at the movie theater after I picked Becky up and we watched Civil War. Just a very intelligent, retired college professor. And we had a lot of fun. I got to say, Becky's a trooper. And I know I talked about it already, but on the second half of that road trip, I don't think she got a break that entire 2.5 weeks until we started heading home. I just had so many things booked for her. I met her that evening in Nashville. As soon as she got off the plane, we went to the movies. The next morning, we rushed out to our property. But before that, we stopped and I did a recording with John Willis. And that was just kind of the routine the entire time she was there. And never complained about it. We had multiple get-togethers with friends because we knew, hey, we don't have a whole lot of time this time. We're going to knock out as much as we can. We'll talk a little more about that. Anyway, I got to see some commercial architectural kind of things from yesteryear. I saw a family video, which you might have seen on my Instagram. I saw another old video rental place in Gordonsville, just outside of where Nicole lives. And I saw a Super K. Oh, and also a Sears, all completely run down, no longer open, would be great fodder for a post-apocalyptic film. But either way, those were kind of cool. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I went to the drive-in theater not once, but twice. The first time was to see Back to the Future, which was great. Had a hell of a time with that. And then I liked it so much, we went back the next weekend and we did a workshop delinquent get-together with Melissa, her kids, her friend, and Norman and Herschel. And that was a lot of fun. I want to tell you, the temperatures changed a whole hell of a lot. It was like it went from 80 degrees to 40 degrees between one movie and the next weekend. So totally crazy. Caleb, great to see you in here. Said, I finally caught one of your lives. It's great to be back, guys. We had 2 incredible evenings at Norman and Herschel's place. And if you guys don't know them, well, if you want to keep up with them, Palm Tree on Telegram is one of their pseudonyms. Great folks that are part of the workshop community came to our first work day at Delinquent's Gully. Becky and I just hit it off. Great friends with them. Brian and Corey are even closer with them. And so we had a couple get-togethers. One night where we had bourbon and cigars. And then the next evening we had bourbon and cigars. No, just kidding. Cigars and hamburgers. We decided to switch things up a little bit. I think twice we went to the local Mexican restaurant, which was to die for. The food is inexpensive. The drinks are great. And the quality of the food was so good. Anyway, loved it. I can't remember the name of it. If Brian happens to pop in at any point, I will mention it. But anyway, just hell of a time. We went there plenty of times. Just want to shout out to my nephew, Nathan Howard. Good to see you in here, buddy. Him and his brother and my sister, their mother, Mandy, are all flying out here to see us this summer. Can't wait. And we're actually flying out there to see them for a week as well. Nova Scotia, of course. So yeah, Norman and Herschel's went to the Amish store. So Jamie, you'll know him as Off-Grid Ping in Telegram. He is has turned into one of our great friends down in the Tennessee area. He lives up the road and he has the hound dog named Bruno, the one that loved to sit and let the juices from Andy's pulled pork kind of drip all over him while they were cooking it last time at the workday. Anyway, it was great to see Jamie. We didn't catch up as often as I'd like, but we still had a couple evenings where we got to sit, drink coffee, and chat. And he mentioned one day that there was an Amish store nearby. I thought, hey, this will be a hell of a time. Let's go. So we got up in the morning on a rainy day and we went. It's about an hour one way, an hour back. And it was not disappointing. They had lots of cool things. I brought the girls back Amish popcorn. They made in-house from scratch sandwiches. You pick the bread, the meat, the cheese, the flavor. You just write it on a piece of paper and then they holler at you when it's ready. It was one of the best, silly thing, but one of the best sandwiches I've ever had. Now, Brian Alexovich from the Lots Project, you'll see a bunch of him. I filmed as much as I could, guys, for Delinquents Gully Chronicles episodes coming up. I'm excited about it. I don't know when they'll start getting released, but I got quite a bit of content in the bag, which is nice because, man, we went with that cabin. We started as an 8x8, and you guys saw it. The one that we built, well, I shouldn't say we. I didn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with it, but the one that most everybody else built during the workday, 8x8 with a 4x8 deck on the front. By the time I left, we had a 16x16 cabin with a 4x8 deck on the front. Sorry, 4x16 deck on the front, 4x16 deck on the back, and an 8x8 storage / bathhouse. Man, we got a ton on the go. And it wouldn't have happened without Brian. And I think I've mentioned it before, but Brian and Corey are getting ready to, at some point, hopefully by SRF time, move onto our property down there. So we're doing a work share program where we're going to trade them a couple of acres in the back end of our property for 2 years, roughly, whatever it is. And we've got it all in to work out. But they're going to get the property and they're going to kind of supervise or oversee Delinquents Gully for the next couple of years, help develop it into a money-making opportunity, help build up the perennial garden bed, just everything that I would love to be there to do that I'm not always going to have the time to do. They are some of our best friends in the entire world, and it's just good to have friends like that. So anyway, I know I've said it, but I couldn't have got it done. Brian and I literally sweated our baguettes off on many occasions, and it was mid-80s. I can't say half the time I was there, but it sure felt like half the time. Mid-80s, damn near 100% humidity. You'd have a shower, you'd put your clothes on, and you'd be wet again. I got used to it. I really did. I was able to work in it. I had to pace myself a little more, make sure I stayed hydrated. But man, Brian, he was a trooper working in that weather with me. Snakes. Did we have any? Yes, we actually had a couple this time. A couple of baby snakes, no big deal. But a rather large, somewhere between 2 and 3 foot long black snake that made an appearance on at least 3 occasions. A rat snake or a something else snake. I forget what it is, but they're safe. They eat all the other snakes' eggs, but it's still a little disconcerting when you see a massive black snake slithering out near the stream, because everybody worries you about, everybody warns you about cottonmouths or water moccasins, whatever you happen, and they're a black snake that live near the water. Anyway, this was not one of those, but it was around. So Corey spotted it first. It kind of slid off on a stump of a tree, and that was it. And then a few weeks later, when we were working at Delinquents Gully on a really hot day, we finally sat down to relax on the deck. And shortly thereafter, Becky kind of said, "Oh, there's a snake." And the snake had slithered out from underneath the cabin. And then later on that day, we were getting ready to leave, going down the hill, and the damn thing was sunning itself right near the bridge that Carrie built on workday. So that was enough of snakes for this time. Ticks everywhere. We'll talk about those later on. I might have mentioned this before. I've been looking, this is going to sound funny, but I've been looking for a pinball machine. I'm eventually going to buy one. I didn't find the one I was looking for, or there's lots I'm looking for, but at some point. But I did go to a place outside of Nashville that had well over 200 pinball machines. So I did the best I could to play as many games as I could while I was waiting to pick up Becky. So, and yeah, let me slide in. I see Caleb has a question here, and I will slide into that one in just a minute. I'm going to save it and we'll come back to it. And it's okay. This is a totally wide open episode here. And I will, we'll come back here. So wonderful. Gifts. That's the next thing I wanted to share with you guys, was some of the cool stuff I got from some of the delinquents. I'm going to forget a bunch. I will try to make a full list so I can post it somewhere, but it was really cool, man, to meet up with some awesome people. Andy Eddings, he brought me a bottle of Chattanooga bourbon to LFTN. That meant the world. Thank you, Andy, and his incredible missus. He's got himself a wonderful lady there. That meant a lot. I get almost back to Canada. I had my limit that I'm allowed to have of bourbon to come across the border. I stopped to get my mail at the American mailbox, and to my surprise, I open up a package that has no name on it, or at least no discernible name. And inside is a bottle of Eagle Rare, a glass, and a pin from the Frankfort, Kentucky Bourbon Society. So thank you very much, Byron Roberts. I figured it out after a bit. That meant the world to me. Thank you very much. I got a sign from Carrie Brown that says Mel's Hole. If you don't know the story, I can fill you in another time. But it seems to be a tradition of people making handmade signs to hang up at Delinquent's Gully. So it hangs within a few feet of the Delinquent's Gully sign that Nate and Aaron made. It is over the door of the main outhouse that we have there now. So thanks for that, guys. Met up with One Step Closer, Jeremy, at SRF. Did not get to chat with him nearly as long as I'd like. Met his wonderful dad. What a cool dude. Jeremy brought us some Mexican candy. Just so you know, Jeremy, it has not been opened yet. It has been safely stashed away until we can do a video, me and Alice, for it. Later on this week, we're going to do some MRE videos, and we will do the Mexican candy video as well. And Byron Roberts, dude, you are a saint among men. Thank you very much. He said, you're very welcome, and I mean it. You really are. So before I go any further into that, let's grab Caleb's question here. He said, totally off topic, or maybe the wrong podcast topic. Sorry. What do you know about security of the person? It's each of our stocks in the Canadian government. Robert Menard has some YouTube videos. I got to say, this one completely catches me off guard. I'm willing to do some research on it. And if anyone else out there, I think Canadian Farmstead was in here this evening, knows anything about it, feel free to throw it into the comments, because I need to apologize. Well, I don't need to apologize, but it's just not something I know anything about, Caleb. Feel free to send me links too. I never mind watching new videos or doing research for an upcoming episode. So yeah, totally missed it on this one, but yeah. So if anybody knows, throw something in the comments. Maybe it's something I know under a different name, but I'm not sure. I got to apologize for that. So another cool example of the power of community. There was an episode that I did about halfway through my trip there where it was kind of a bitch fest, and not in a bad way, but I was like, hey, I am struggling here, guys. I am having a hell of a time keeping any power in my battery banks up the hill long enough to run what I need. And so the very next day, Sean said, hey, Sean Mills of Hack My Homestead, our resident solar expert around these communities, messaged me, and he said, the Monday after LFTN, we're getting together and we're installing you a permanent solar panel. And that was friggin' awesome. That meant the world to me. That was one. And then I made an offhand comment about how expensive showers are at the gas, or the need to take showers at Love's gas truck stops. I love Love's. I say that 10 times fast. And their showers are top notch, no big deal, but they're $18 a piece. And it's not like I was going every day because I was in the middle of the woods and nobody else was around. But I made an offhand comment that if anybody wanted to barter for showers, because truck drivers out there can earn them. I mean, a lot of guys end up with a couple hundred of them on their card at any given time that they're never going to use. So a guy named Carson in our community reached out to me and he said, hey, I'll trade. So we traded patches for showers. And Becky and I were able to have showers for the last 3 weeks of our trip for a significantly less price than if I'd have paid for them myself. And I gladly would much prefer supporting the circular economy in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, really cool. Really appreciate it, Carson. That's the power of community. From one episode, guys, I ended up making 2 awesome connections for that trip. So that happens. Polaroid camera. What'd you say, Tim? Yeah, I might have mentioned it, but it's kind of got me thinking about it for the last little while. But when I went the very first night to the drive-in theater, this lady had a vintage Polaroid that I paid her $10 to take a photo of me in front of a DeLorean. That picture is still at Delinquent's Gully. It'll stay there hopefully forever. But I don't know if you'd say it was an interesting, or maybe one of those things that a person could probably do at events and make pretty good money with it, with a vintage Polaroid, with actual Polaroid film, and charging $5 or $10 a pop, because not everybody has it, and especially on a vintage, it's a really good story. It's one of those things that you can take away tangibly that nobody really does anymore. I loved it. Interviews. I did a ton. I've got so many kind of backed up for the Patreon. So going forward, I think what we're going to end up doing is pretty similar to what I've done with the last couple. You'll get, a third to half of the interview. It won't be a teaser that's cut off on, the middle of a word or anything, but you'll get a third to a half of the interview on the regular YouTube channel and podcast feed. And then the rest, the full unedited interview, will be on Patreon, so that, at least half the interview will be 100% exclusive content for my Patreon subscribers as a thank you, because I appreciate it. Alice and I will be doing MRE videos as well, but I don't even know if I can remember all the interviews I did, but I got William Bond, Angry American, and Angry Prepper, all at Kentucky Sustainable Living. I got Patrick Rorman of MT Knives and Porterhouse of Porterhouse and Teal at LFTN. And Becky just says, sorry for grandbaby's late in the studio, but you can still hear it a little bit. At LFTN. At SRF, I got Sonny Pazakis. I got him. Another one with Mike Shelby, Nick Ferguson. That might have been it, I think. And at Mountain Readiness, I think I only did the one, but it was Franklin Horton, and we did a damn near, actually, it might have been a little, I don't know, it was close to an hour-long interview anyway. I can tell you for sure later on. But that was, not that you have favorite interviews, but that was one hell of a time, him and I getting to sit down there and just chat finally. So, yeah. If you are somebody who shops at Lowe's on a regular basis and you get, semi-large amounts of material, sign up for their contractors club or whatever it was. I ended up on one day alone, I saved $500 on my supplies for Delinquent Scully. It was worth every penny. Take a minute and talk to the guys at the contractor's desk. I think we saved $500 on one trip and then $250 on two subsequent trips. So just over $1,000 altogether. It's worth signing up for. And yeah, it helps you keep track of your receipts and all that jazz. But more than that, it was just saving the money and making the connections at the lumber desks. Those are worth a lot. Let's see what else. I had a lady who hit me up for money at the Loves. I don't want to say, you guys know for a lot of years, I struggle with situational awareness. I've really, really trained myself to be much more vigilant. And I'm really proud of myself for how much better I've gotten at it. However, one day I was tired. It'd been a long day. I was at the Loves, and this lady snuck up behind me and put on the old grandmother face. And she's like, I got to get to see my grandson. He's in St. Louis and I can't get there. And guys, there was 80% of me that kind of in my head thought, I'm pretty sure this is a scammy lady. And I still give her $10. She caught me off guard. I wasn't prepared. I didn't see her coming. I give it to her out of pure intentions, but more than the fact that I give her $10 was the fact that she snuck up on me while I was pumping gas without me seeing. I'm usually really good, and I would just let my guard down that day. So head on a swivel, folks. I normally, if I'm fueling up, I'm either washing my windows or I kind of put my back to the truck so that I can kind of do a 180 to 270 degree look around. That's what I tend to do. It's really, I've tried to get really good at it because I want to tell you, if you spend any time at truck stops, there are so many opportunities for bad things to happen there. Number one, there is just a shit ton of vehicles moving around, so you could get struck super easy. A lot of large, heavy vehicles that are going to hurt you or can hurt you. But more than that, there are so many people coming and going. And I can only say Love's is a lot like a Taco Bell. If you've ever heard the old story that the Taco Bell drive-through at 2 a.m. is the only time you're going to see somebody in a BMW followed by somebody in a 1986 Ford Escort with the bumper falling off. Like, you're going to get all walks of life, and you get all walks of life at the truck stops as well. However, they do tend to kind of congregate the ne'er-do-wells there as well. But you'll see a lot of people with broke down vehicles. I, on multiple occasions, saw people doing shade tree mechanic work there, trying to get their vehicles up and running. One Step Closer says some Waffle Houses as well. Oh, 100% Waffle House for that. You are right. But yeah, so vehicles, dogs, sketchy folk, the ability for somebody, maybe not to grab me, but the ability for somebody to grab somebody and be gone instantly and hit, any multitude, because almost all big truck stops are at an intersection. So they could head in multiple directions. You'd never know. So keep your head on a swivel at truck stops. Not trying to scare you, just trying to be honest, because I was in and out of that Love's truck stop probably 40 times this trip. And I love it. I tend to feel safe there overall, but it is one of those things you want to always keep your head on a swivel. So Aaron says, amazing how many people are on their phones pumping gas. I really, really try not to do it. I won't say I never do it, but I would say probably only 5% of the time. And I've gotten better and better at it because I also, Brian Alexovich will probably hate me for this, I don't turn my car off when I pump gas. I know it's against the rules. I like to keep it running for multiple reasons, but I guess the main one is heat or air conditioning, depending on the time of the year, and a quick egress if you need to. But that's always been my thing. I'm sure somebody out there will say you're a bad prepper, Tim, for not doing it. I just don't. I leave the vehicle running and keep my phone in my pocket, my head up, and gas pumping. Sometimes if it's sketchy or really cold, I'll just turn the pump on auto and hop back in the vehicle. So there you go. Caleb says, security of the person. Each Canadian citizen has a given name and a straw man name. Mine is Caleb Gillen. My straw man is uppercase Caleb Gillen, given by the government. The straw man is our corporate name. Interesting. Beth Emily says, I now know another reason why Buc-ee's doesn't allow trucks. I hope I didn't scare anybody out there. It bugs me because I know people from outside the prepper sphere, they look at us and they're like, oh, you're a bunch of paranoid freaks. No, I really don't. I hope people don't take it as that, because it's not. It's about being a better human. It's about protecting you and your family around you. It's about not being a victim. And it doesn't mean to be paranoid. It just means to learn these things. And situational awareness should never really be turned off. It doesn't mean you got to be high on alert at, level red or whatever all the time. No, you don't. But it is what it is, right? Byron Roberts says he never turns his vehicle off either. Good. I don't feel so bad. That's just my habit. The only place I will is at Costco, because they'll tell me to turn it off or pull out. So yeah, anyway. Ryan Pippin, good to see you, brother. Great to see you, actually. All right. Speaking of Buc-ee's, that was next on my list. Stopped at Buc-ee's for the first and second time. Buc-ee's is interesting. I loved it the first time. I liked it the second time. But man, I still prefer Love's gas stations. Now, let me tell you why. Buc-ee's just, what does Buc-ee's feel like? It feels like a truck stop mixed with a Dollar General, mixed with a Walmart. And I'm sure there's a few else I'm missing in there. It's designed to get you to spend a shit ton of money. It's almost overwhelming to the senses, and not in a bad way. Everybody needs to experience a Buc-ee's at some time. The food is great. The jerky's great. The sandwiches are great. The trinkets and the clothing and all that other stuff is just like you'd find just about everywhere. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, One Step Closer. Love's crossed with a Cracker Barrel. One, bing, 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 you win. And I was trying to spit out Cracker Barrel and couldn't remember it. It's exactly what it is. It's like a Love's with a Cracker Barrel. If you've ever been to a Cracker Barrel, when you get ready to, go out and pay, you got to walk through their gift shop, except picture the Cracker Barrel extended out to the size of a Costco with 100 gas pumps out front and not a transport truck in sight. Rather interesting. So yeah, crazy. Hey, Rachel Brown, good to see you. And there you are. So that's exactly it. Love's mixed with Cracker Barrel. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I wouldn't stop at one again, but I promise you, now that I've done it twice, I won't go out of my way. I I prefer Love's. And the main reason, I mean, they've got good food, good drinks, but I love the trucker stuff that they have at Love's. All the 12-volt accessories and appliances, the phone accessories. There is so much cool prepping gear in a Love's you won't even know. So better late than ever. Great to see you, Rachel Brown. Always good to see you. And Caleb, I will look into this some more. Absolutely. I appreciate you. And I'm pretty sure you're a fellow Canadian based on it. Bonnie Blue. She says, Bonnie Blue, I'm late too. We got to stop with the rhyming in here. So there you go. Okay. Bucky's was cool. How we doing? Oh, anyway, we're doing great. Mountain readiness. I give you guys a rundown on mountain readiness, but it was a lot of fun. We got rained out the last day, so that kind of put a damper on things. But we got there Thursday, hung out Thursday night, hung out all day Friday with Wendy and Joel. Almost got bit by by Maeve, the protection dog that will be coming home with us in about a year. Pretty excited about that. Bourbon, cigars, some incredible people. All the rest. I loved it. So Nate, you are right. He said, we need to get me 2 meter and 70 centimeter in my truck. That is an upgrade that we will get done. Absolutely. Maybe next year for the get together, maybe we'll do a little install. That would be a lot of fun. I would like that quite a bit. I've got so much plans for upgrades to the truck. Now I'm not doing a road trip for quite some time. You guys know that. It doesn't mean that I won't go to one-off events that I can travel to in a day or two or something like that. I was going to mention it later on, but Becky and I think the girls are flying down for SRF in the fall. No road trip, but we're going to go down. We're going to do a couple of work days at Delinquents Gully. So any fellow delinquents are more than welcome to come. We'll feed you. We'll have at least campsites, maybe more than that by the time you get there, but probably campsites. So it'll be a hell of a time. And and Nate says we can talk about budget on the side. Absolutely. That'll be fun. So anyway, mountain readiness was a hell of a time in North Carolina. I will go back in the future. I am definitely taking a bit of a break from events. Doesn't mean I won't go to any, but it certainly also means that there is no 57-day road trips in the foreseeable future. I'm not using anything as a crutch, but 57 days was way too freaking long to be away from the family, was too much to ask of my family. And like I said, my girls are not getting any younger. So, and also something else I've been thinking about a lot lately. I really want to take a more active role in the daycares as well. It's one of our huge money makers. It's definitely one of the thing that takes up the most of Becky's time. And I've mostly been the handyman end of things, but I will gladly jump in and take a little bit of a management role there with Becky as well, just because it can't hurt. And and with my son-in-law, Curtis, so him and my daughter, Olivia, they moved back to Provost, or his first time living here, and they took care of the property management while I was gone. And it was a huge help to the point where I am going to rely on him to do most of the property management, and I'm going to work strictly into content creation and the daycare, pretty much. And then, of course, knocking out a massive honey-do list around this house for the next foreseeable future. We're also working at and I can't guarantee this is going to happen yet, but we're looking at an acreage just out of town. If we can make that happen in the next 6 months, holy shit, the content that'll come out of that, but there's so much more too. Pippin says he's in for another work day come October SRF. I am too. It'll be great. We'll have a hell of a time. Absolutely. I already talked about the Franklin Horton interview. You guys will get to see that at some point. I'm not lying when I say I have about 2 years worth of interviews to be released on a monthly basis for the Patreon/YouTube channel. So it could be a while till you see that one. I just randomly pick one. I try not to, do 2 authors or 2 podcasters in a row, but there's always something out there for you. So I believe I spoke 6 times. I attended 5 events. The last one was Nate and Aaron's. We had it was so nice to go there. We ended up leaving Saturday night. We didn't pop back by for Sunday morning because we were so darned exhausted. We couldn't even keep our eyes open. We left. I think we left about 8:00 Saturday night. Felt like we were about to turn into pumpkins. It was so bad. And I felt bad. I gave everything I could give while we were there. we were just at the tail end of a marathon, and it was a hell of a time. But Nate and Aaron, thank you so much for putting on an incredible show for us. We got to have Nate's pork belly bites again, Aaron's great breakfast sandwiches, and more than that, the hospitality of both Nate and Aaron, Two Chicks Homestead, to put this event together, to have a whole bunch of delinquents show up at their place. Their neighbor was so great. I love their neighbor. He's so much fun. We sat out and chatted a whole bunch that evening, and just one hell of an event. So thanks, guys. We had so much fun. And Aaron says we love that it was so chill for you guys. It was just a cool event to end up on, to come hang out and just chat. So thanks for putting that together, guys. I mentioned having a close call with Maeve. If you haven't seen the video, I'm pretty sure it's on Instagram. She got a bite of my shirt, pulled my lanyard off, and probably missed nipping the old chest skin by millimeters. And for those who don't know what that is, 16th of an inch, perhaps. So a couple other things. We hit some massive thunderstorms and some really nasty, muggy heat. So we didn't have anything other than a fan and very limited power at the time to cool ourselves off. But what we did have was a cooler full of ice. So I took a couple of freezer size Ziploc bags, and Becky and I kind of put them on ourselves while we let the fan blow across, and it helped immensely. So don't think outside the box when it comes to cooling down, because there's always solutions to the problems. The night we went to see Norman and Herschel was our last night there, and we were under a fairly massive tornado watch. So we got to experience, I guess, our first taste of tornado weather. Not that we could see them, but they weren't that far away. But we were definitely listening to the tornado watches that entire evening. So that was a bit interesting. And then later on that night, Becky and I got to experience the largest thunderstorm that I have ever experienced in my entire life. It was great. It was, woke me up 2 or 3 times throughout the night. It's the type that'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And if you don't have hair on the back of your neck, it'll make the back of your neck grow hair. It was that crazy. So, anyway, hell of a time. And did you get to see the green sky? The sky was pretty thick. Let's put it that way for a little while. It was maybe not fully green, but man, we had we weren't that far. I forget where the closest tornado was, but close enough that I said tornado watch. We were under tornado warning for our area. One thing I did realize is that we don't have a tornado plan for Delinquents Gully. And I think if it were really that bad, we would probably go to a nearby church for shelter if we needed to, but you don't have that much time. So I don't know. We'll come up with a plan eventually. The chances are very, very slim, but they're not zero. So just something, again, to think about. Rachel Brown says, half y'all didn't hit the thumbs up. Get on it, slackers. She said, don't make me get belligerent. Rachel, we don't have to make you get belligerent, Daryl. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for the support. And yes, hit the thumbs up. Love it. What else? Check this out right here on my head. Workshop Radio. This is the handshake patch this year. I guess I can show it because I probably only have 15 or so left. One of those has, I owe one to one person that I need to send out to them. Other than that, what I have left will be handed out at the workday at Delinquents Gully. I started with 150 before this road trip, and I'm down to, I don't know. I say 15, somewhere between 25 and 15. I'll have to count them out. So they'll be coming with me for handing out at the workday, but I would imagine they'll be gone before we get to SRF. Nate Lemaster said buried culvert tubes. That's not a bad idea at all. The digging will be fun, but we could do that for sure. This, one of the weirdest things that I've had happen to me, I think I mentioned Telegram, but definitely not anywhere else. On our way back through, we stopped into Rapid City, which we do on multiple occasions, but we found an incredible little silver and gold shop there. So we walk in, and I ended up buying a tube of Eagles from them, which I wanted to get, but I actually had gone in looking for some mercury dimes. They didn't have many, but I bought less than a handful. So anyway, that wasn't the cool part. we get talking to the daughter of the owner of the business, and it's a family-owned business. The father's, probably in his late 50s or early 60s. His, 30-ish-year-old daughter and son both work there. And she said, well, where are you guys from? And I said, Canada. She goes, do you want to buy some Canadian money? I was like, man, that's kind of sketchy, but not really. And she said, here's the deal. We get random Canadian money in here quite often. I was like, oh, okay. What do you mean? She goes, change, bills, that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, I'm open to an idea. She goes, no, you need to understand. I will sell you Canadian money at a discount because we're 15 hours from the border. Ain't nobody here going to drive up to Canada to exchange the money. I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. So we ended up, I can't remember the exact number, guys. I'd be lying if I did, but it was somewhere in the $400 range that we got for 15 to 20% off the face value. I've never once in my life bought money below face value. It was a rather interesting experience. So after the exchange rate, we paid American cash. For the Canadian cash, we still made somewhere between 15 and 20%. So we're going to take that and turn it into silver. Brian Young, great to see you, brother. Wow. He said, tube of Eagles must be nice. Damn right it's nice. And not gold, of course, just silver. But I had one of my best there were so many memories that I can't even, I'm between Patrick coming out and making us dinner. But one of the greatest days I had was about a 4-hour window where Brian come out, hung out at Delinquent's Gully, and him and I just sat on the front deck of the cabin, drank White Claws, I believe it was, just a couple of them, and just shot the shit for 4 hours. It was one of those days where I just needed a friend to come by, and not because I was down or anything. I just had worked my balls off for, a bunch of days, and it was nice to have a friend. And he just come by, we chatted, and had a hell of a time. So thanks for that, Brian. I always appreciated it. Yep, I mentioned flying into SRF in the fall. Going to be doing that. How about the wildlife, guys? I really enjoyed staying at Delinquent's Gully the whole time I was there. I guess the first thing was I started in a little 8x8 shack. When I got there, I had a bedroll on the floor, just a very, very thin bedroll. It was okay, but boy, I want to tell you, that floor is hard to get up off of when you wake up in the morning, and your old back feels it. So I had to roll up my bed every time I wanted to use my my desk, anytime I wanted to cook food. And but the thing I noticed pretty quickly while you're there is you quickly become, I don't know, this is going to sound weird, but kind of in sync with nature. So the sun comes up, you wake up. The sun goes down, you quit what you're doing, you go to bed. You go, you hear, the whippoorwills in the evening, oh, it's bedtime. You hear the birds in the morning, you get used to hearing the noises. And I really, really enjoyed it. There was a ton of wildlife there. I told you about the black king snake or rat snake, whatever it was. That was crazy. We had ticks everywhere, especially for the first half of the trip. There was a couple days where I had between 15 and 20 ticks on me a day. And some of them were small as the head of a pencil. You had to be really careful that they didn't just kind of do their thing, right? So anyway, ticks suck. I ended up spraying for them. I can't remember exactly what I used. It was a product that worked quite well. Now, I know that a lot of people don't always love that, but I needed to do it around the cabin for peace of mind, and they were just everywhere. It helped beat them back for a bit, and then they started coming back around again. So the whippoorwills are a lot of fun. I get a little annoying. They're one of the birds that I'm not going to attempt to try to make their noise, but if you look them up online, you'll hear about them. I think the first time I ever heard about them was in a Tim McGraw song back in the 90s. Didn't have a clue what they were until just recently, but they're okay. Birds that only cry at night. We had some salamanders hanging around that Becky nicknamed Creepy Dan and Creepy Dave, because they would sit up on the top of the wall of the cabin and stare at you all day. They were cute. They were fun. We'll leave it at that. Lightning bugs, got to see my first batch of lightning bugs in a lot of years, and there was a bunch of them around. They seemed to, they'd come out in flocks. You'd see them a bunch, and then they wouldn't be there for a couple of nights. But I always enjoyed them sitting out after dark. And then, of course, after dark, the stink bugs would come out. The first stink bug that I got to experience was at the drive-in movie theater. I swatted something, and all I could smell was what I would describe as mothballs for the next hour. They're weird. They stink, but they are what they are. Frogs. We had frogs all over the property there. I love seeing them. They would just hop around, especially in the morning after it rained. And it rains a lot in Tennessee, folks. I want to let you know, at least in the spring it does. Turtles. There was more than one occasion that I almost ran over turtles in the road. We saw a couple of turtles on our property. I even stopped once to go back and take a turtle out of the road, but he was already gone. I don't know how he moved that fast, but there was no sign of him getting hit. So, yeah, the weather was great. It was kind of cool because when I first got there in March, it was so funny story. 2 months ago today is when I left. March 19th is when I left. And when I got down to Delinquent's Gully, you could see from the cabin right out to the woods road that we come in on. And by the time I left, you could barely see 10 feet in any direction beyond where it was cut. The foliage came in great, and it was so nice. It cuts down on the noise, but there's a lot of humidity in there too. Beautiful, beautiful thing. So some gear I used while I was there, and I really enjoyed it. The first one, honestly, was I bought a jet boil stove a while back, and it's made by the Fire Maple brand. And that thing was so nice. It was, it's just one of those little jet boil stoves. I made, I would cook soup in it. I would cook pasta in it. I would cook rice dishes in it. I would make my coffee in the morning. I'd make chicken stock, whatever it happened to be. But that thing was a beast. And it didn't use a ton of gas. I went through probably the equivalent of just less than one canister the whole time I was there. I'm definitely going to do a review on it. I'm actually going to pick up some more of the Fire Maple gear because holy cow, I loved it. It would, yeah. Anyway, I used a Blue Eddy and an Anchor battery bank at the place. The Blue Eddy was about half the size to 2/3 the size of the Anchor. I like the Blue Eddy way better. The Anchor just had too many problems. It was a little heavier, which wasn't a problem, but it didn't want to charge even off a 1500 watt inverter. Here's something that I didn't think I'd care about, and then I did. It didn't have an app, which meant I couldn't monitor. Now, when you're at home, monitoring the power on a battery bank, not a big deal. But when you're in an off-grid cabin in Tennessee, you want to know what your percentages are. You want to know how it's charging, how it's discharging, and the whole works. But more than that, and this is going to sound funny, but if you're in bed at night and you're getting really tired and you have your Starlink turned on, being powered by your Anchor battery system or your Blue Eddy, the Anchor, you had to get out of bed, get up, and unplug or turn it off. The Blue Eddy had an app that would allow me to completely shut it off from my phone. I laughed at the need for an app when I did my review before. Now I realize there is some need for that kind of stuff. I bought a second DeWalt cordless nailer because I forgot mine in Alberta, and I don't know how many days worth of work it saved me at Delinquent's Gully, but it certainly allowed us to get way more framing done than we would do otherwise. I picked up a Duracell rechargeable lantern at Costco a few months back, and I used that for my main source of light almost the whole time I was at Delinquent's Gully. Now, it was USB-C rechargeable, and that was good. I liked that. I liked having that option. It also had a solar panel built on top, which, to be honest, I think was more for show than actual charging, but it was there. But it also took C batteries. And so I bought a bunch of C batteries and put them in there, and that thing would run off 4 C batteries for a long time. Keep an eye out for a review on that. It was a great product that wasn't very expensive. I brought an IceCo portable cooler with me. It's something that works as a fridge/freezer when plugged into power. I thought it was battery powered when I bought it. Turns out you have to buy the battery pack separately, but it will hold a frozen ice for 3 or 4 days anyway. I know Brian's got one coming to him, so keep an eye out from him. My 511 get home bag got a ton of use, not because I had to walk home or anything, but because I decided I was going to test as much of the gear as I could. Use some of the fire starters. I used the jet boil stove. I used the spork. I used the seasonings. I used the first aid kit. I used the bug spray. There was not much in there I didn't pull out and use, and it gave me a really good field test of my get home bag. And it also showed me a few things that I'm lacking and a few things that I probably don't need. Also, If you haven't seen these mechanical carpenter's pencils, these ones are made by NICPRO, NICPRO. Got them on Amazon. They are probably my favorite piece of gear I used the whole time I was down there. You guys hear me say this about little gadgets all the time, but why the hell I didn't buy them 10 years ago, I never know. I'll talk more about them, but they are, oh man. Yeah. And Brian Young keeps rubbing it in that he has an app on his anchor station. He goes, yeah, I love the app on my anchor power station, ... Well, mine doesn't have one, brother. No, just being a dick. But yes, Brian has a good little size one on that one too. Okay, that covers the gear. And then I guess I'll kind of finish up. We got a little bit left, but I wanted to tell you the lessons that I learned on my trip. And there's so much that I probably learned and forgot, so many things I wrote down and maybe didn't put where I should have or whatever. But I wanted to give you at least, I figured I owed you a full episode on what the hell went on in 57 days. All right. So first off, a while ago, I standardized on USB-C rechargeable everything. Doesn't mean I don't like them, and I still will use them, but I gave some serious consideration to using disposable or rechargeable batteries while I was at the cabin. Now, you might ask why, and there's multiple reasons, but my first thought was if the battery, back up. Where this all came from was when I didn't do my due diligence and charge something internally, I never had the option of swapping out the batteries to use it again. And that was a little frustrating. So it's great to have an internal battery, but when they're not swappable, they're not swappable. Number two, if they're dead, you got to wait for them to charge. Simple as that. So what I'm starting to think about, and I don't know where I'm going to go with this yet, because, everything in my get home bag and most of my other stuff is USB-C. It'll probably stay there, but I did pick up I think it's JetBlue or something blue, a 28 watt foldable solar panel that you can hang on the back of your get home bag, but you can use it for anything. I picked up a USB-C battery charger that'll take 4 AA's and 4 AAA's. And I'm kind of thinking that I might swap back and forth because, when flashlights die, it's really nice to be able to swap batteries out like that. And, it's something when you get stuck in your head that you're going to be USB, sometimes you overlook the forest for the trees. So I've given some serious consideration to switching some items back to battery, or better yet, redundancy like the Duracell lantern that'll take batteries, solar, and USB. So there you go. That's a thought. Number 2, when power is precious, ice is better than electricity. What do you mean by that, Tim? Well, what I mean is, like with that Iceco fridge where we kept my creamers and meat and different things in, having a cooler full of ice was like having a charged battery all the time. So I'd go pick up a bag of ice at Twice the Ice or at Dollar Tree or Dollar General. Throw it in the cooler. I knew I didn't have to worry about it. I knew I wasn't going to be looking at my battery percentages thinking, can I run this cooler now? Can I not? Until I have really steady power down there, I'm going to be using ice coolers until I can plug them in and keep them going. Keeping items recharged is a full-time job. I got my balls busted by Mrs. Cook on multiple occasions simply because I run into, I had multiple anchor power packs. I had battery banks. I had flashlights. At one point, all 3 of my flashlights had died. And not because I didn't want to charge them, but because I didn't have enough juice to charge them. Just was what it was. And so redundancy was great. I had my around my neck flashlight. I picked up a mini Streamlight for my keychain. I'm going to show you my EDC keychain one of these days. But keeping shit recharged is a not full-time, but it's a job. And Brian Young says, man, the batteries that charge from USB. That's how I run my Streamlights, USB rechargeable CR123s. Yes, something along those lines for sure. I like that. It's hard to keep clean in the woods. You get used to it, but having a Navy shower or whatever bath you want to call it is a lot of work in the woods. It's not the end of the world. It's a lot more enjoyable to just take a drive to the gas station and have a shower at the truck stops. But it's just another thing that you have to think about when you're out living in the woods. You're like, okay, what kind of water am I going to use? Because you need water to do it. You need fuel to heat the water. You need a container to hold the water. It is what it is. But we're working on water storage. We're working on extra power. And we've built a bathhouse, and I have the shower material to install. So there's that. Water conservation becomes a thing. Every time you go to wash your hands, you think, how much water am I going to use? Especially when every drop of water you want has to be hauled up the hill for right now. So if you're going to take a bath, half a gallon is what I was able to kind of use, or that's what I kind of measured it out. You're going to wash your hands, you're going to cook, you're going to wash your dishes. You're always thinking, how can I stretch this water out just a little bit more? Kind of cool. Power is everything. You are always looking at percentages. Simple as that. Every time I wanted to plug in Starlink, every time I wanted to plug in a box fan, I always had to do the math and think, do I have enough juice? How long can I run Starlink? Can I live stream for this? Can I live stream for that? You get used to it. It's a bit of a pain in the ass at first, but that's like bitching about moving in the woods. No, I chose to move in there for a while, and it was fun. But you just need to get used to it. We're going to build, I think we're going to go to maybe 4 or 5 solar panels, and we're going to have 3 or 4 battery packs in the camp at some point. So at that point, we could probably even run a mini split a bit. So we're going to insulate the cabin, and it'll be very, very much livable. And I thought at first, man, having a mini split in there is going to be it seems overkill. But John Willis mentioned it to me. Sean mentioned it to me. And of course, Becky wanted one. I was like, oh, okay. You know what? Maybe we can make this work. So yeah. Starlink is a game changer, guys. I love Starlink. I know I had a couple of episodes that the connection was shitty. That was more due to the expediency of hooking up than it was it being unreliable. What ended up happening the night of Patrick's episode was we got back late. Everything was dark. We tried to set it up. I was kind of in the way of trees that I didn't see. Leaves had come in while I was gone. So that was the issue. If you have, down there, a good north-facing sight line, and for some reason I brought it home, hooked it up, and it now points south, and I get a perfect connection here. Starlink is a game changer, guys. You can live in the woods and be a YouTuber now. So that is something else. Here's another thought for you. If you pee in the same spot for weeks on end, it's gonna start to stink. Somebody out there's like, TMI. Well, no, I'm just talking about living in the woods. When you wake up in the morning and you decide to answer the call of nature off the deck in the same place, after a while, you discover bees are attracted to it and you need to put water down there. So find a safe spot, build a latrine, have some sort of waste management / personal hygiene plan. But another thing that you don't necessarily think about, Caleb says for showers, there are solar heated bags you can hang. It holds 10 liters of water. I thought about that. I looked at one of those, and I probably would have if we weren't building some IBC tote water storage. And that stuff, I'll show more of that in the Delinquents Gully Chronicles coming up. But I do like those a lot. And I'm looking at one of those instant on camper style ones with the propane. Quite excited about that. Having a toilet down the hill is fine until it ain't. It's fine during the day. It's fine in the morning. The only time it sucks is 11 o'clock at night in a thunderstorm. Ask me how I know. But anyway, we are working on extending that. Everything about Delinquents Gully is about bringing some of the creature comforts from home. And, it was great when we finally built the toilet, and it was even better when we finally built the cabin, and it'll be even better when we have a toilet next to the cabin. How about that? After putting all the metal roofing on, I had a few leaks in the roof. Surprise, surprise. Where did they come from? Well, 2 or 3 of them were from where I didn't tighten down a metal roofing screw. No big deal. And some of them were from the very first piece I built when I got there this time. It was a very hot, long day, and I made one of the dumbest mistakes I have ever made. And instead of going over the metal roofing, I went under the metal roofing, and I made a channel for the water to come right in between the sheets. There you go. Becky says Walmart on steroids. I'm thinking she's talking about all the stuff we bought for the cabin. But yeah, or maybe not. I might have missed part of that. But yeah, so it was, I screwed up with that. Not a big deal. But I got up one day and swapped it over, and we are now just about leak free. We need a little bit of trim on one window, but after taking some time, I went up and I sealed every seam of the metal with this double-sided tape that seemed to work really good. So many cool things. But yeah, we had some leaks for a while. Nate says, I was wondering for the guys in the outhouse if a urinal and a 5-gallon bucket filled with sand to filter it would work instead of using the main composting bucket. Yes, yes, and yes. Actually, Brian and I talked about this exact thing based on the fact that, again, using the bathroom off the deck eventually got kind of unsanitary. So we talked about putting a 5-gallon bucket in there, maybe half full of wood shavings or 3/4 full of wood shavings. Because I used to use do you guys remember when Costco used to have the kitty litter in the green plastic container? Well, when that's half full of sawdust, it makes a really good urinal, just so you know, in case anybody's ever looking for some kind of design like that. So yes, sand or wood chips would work great, and then you could incorporate it into a long-term composting plan. Lots of different things you could do, but yes, you could, and it would absolutely extend the life or usefulness of the bucket that's under the composting toilet at the time. So yeah, 5-gallon bucket, great idea for sure. Cell service sucks at Delinquents Gully. I've mentioned that on multiple occasions. I can barely get a phone call, but for some damn reason, I can watch YouTube. I cannot figure it out. I can't check my email. I can barely look at Facebook, but I can watch videos on YouTube at Delinquents Gully on the cell service there with one bar of, is it AT&T? I think it is. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why. Going forward, I've got a review video coming up in a while on a de-Googled phone that I picked up. It's going to be basically my version of a burner phone with a U.S. phone number, but it's also going to be de-Googled. So there's going to be some content on it. The company, I'm pretty excited about it. If it works out the way I think it is, and if it's as good a product as I think it is, I'll be able to recommend it. And they have a really good affiliate program. So it's a win-win for everybody. But yeah, it's just a Google Pixel 5, I think. And I'm pretty excited. I was able, I don't want to give away too much, but I was able to get a U.S. phone number without giving up any personal information. I'll give you more details down the road, but it was a lot of fun for sure. And Nate says it's telling you have better things to do, like learn things from YouTube University. That's right. There you go. For sure. So that's an hour and 7-minute look at a 57-day road trip. It was a hell of a time. I had a hell of a time with my wife. We had so much fun. We traveled a lot. One thing that's been great about Delinquents Gully is, I'm not saying that it's not, that it's an inexpensive trip, because it isn't. It's an expensive trip. But being able to stay at Delinquents Gully now has cut out one of the biggest expenses of our trips to Tennessee, which is going to make it more cost effective down the road. And that is not having to book hotels anymore. So I don't know how many nights I spent at Delinquents Gully, but it would have to be in the ballpark of 25, probably about half of the trip, because of course I was driving down and driving back for 2 weeks. I was at events for other times, but yeah, I would say it was close to 25 nights I spent at Delinquents Gully. Love it there. We now have, you're going to laugh, but we now have a king-size bed in the master bedroom at Delinquents Gully. And when I call it a master bedroom, it's the back 16 feet of it, the back half, 16 by 8. It's awesome. I love it. It is a home now, a house anyway, that Becky turned into a home. We went to the Restore. If you've never been to the Restore, we got a ton of used material there. Picked up some stuff at some thrift stores, a little bit from Walmart, and the place is coming around, guys. Long term, the next few plans for work days, and when I get down there again, we're eventually going to insulate the cabin. We're going to put siding on the cabin. We are going to build a dam in the stream. That's probably going to be a workday project unless Brian and I do it before everybody gets there. But that's the one I want to work on. I think people have a lot of fun with that. We're going to build a dam for doing direct DC solar to pump up to an IBC tote. And we may even put in one of those ram pump styles. If you've ever seen those are really cool. If you haven't seen them, they're 100% power-free, off-grid pumping solution. We'll see where we end up, but our water is next. I've got one food grade IBC tote at the cabin now. I'll be doubling or tripling that storage space eventually. Rain storage as well. Again, 2 is 1, 1 is none, but I want to have multiple ways to get water there because we're not going to be putting a well in. We're not going to be on city water. Power is going to be solar and lots of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, I'm happy to be home. I'm happy to knock out the honey-do list. I'm really happy to be back and see my kids. But beyond that, I am, it was a good time. We had a hell of a time, but looking forward to getting back down there and doing some more work down the road. Rachel Brown says, oh no, sorry. I was going to say, we got that for the same price, honey. Becky, my wife, says, Rachel Brown, we got vinyl plank flooring for $10 a box. We did. We got enough plank flooring to put in the cabin, which is going to make it way nicer and way easier to keep clean going down the road. So looking forward to it. Yeah. Beyond that, guys, where are we going? Oh, you know what I did not mention? We hit 15,000. We got 15K subscribers on YouTube as of yesterday. A huge milestone. I love the fact that I was able to build a channel that still made me money and still grew with the subscribers while I was building Delinquents Gully and was a little bit away from the content creation for sure. It was great. I appreciate everybody for that. But 15,000, I was excited. Couldn't believe that we got there. So now, where are we going from here? Next Thursday will be This Week in Prepping, the show that everybody loves. It's part of Workshop Radio, but it's the Thursday episode. I'm really excited to get back in the swing. I did 2 of them on the road, so we missed like 6 out of 8. But I'm excited. So what are you going to see? You know, the usual segments that you like. We're going to have Willow as well, back with Sunshine Prepper News. We're also going to have the debut of a brand new segment by another contributor from the Delinquents community. I'm not going to tell you who it is. It may or may not be involving food, but beyond that, that's all you're going to find out. So you got to tune in for that. And on top of that, for Thursday, we're going to have a brand new video intro and outro. The audio that everybody loves is still there, but we hired Rebecca, Red Flyer Media, to do a brand new, nice intro, outro, and spruce up the stinger clips in between. So looking forward to being back in the saddle, doing This Week in Prepping. Got a bunch of interviews lined up already. I don't know how many, but I probably made a list of about 40 people that I met through all the events that I wanted to reach out to and set up interviews. And I think I reached out to 5 earlier this week, and I've heard back from 4 already. So look forward to a ton of great content coming forward. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I never even mentioned is we're doing a pre-order for silver. We're doing, I don't have a picture right here, but if you want to see it, it's on the Telegram group or over on Instagram. We're going to do 2 runs of silver this year, but the first one is going to be a 1-ounce coin. It's going to have the Workshop kind of maker mark on the back, just a small little, it's going to say TT with a hammer and 2024 on the back. But on the front is going to be the first in an ongoing series of our Modern Apocalypse coins. And this one is going to be the Y2K coin. So if you buy it before, if you buy it during the pre-order, it's $70 for, some people are going to say, I know, but that's 1 ounce of coin. It's 1 ounce of silver. It's the price that it has to be to buy the silver, to pay a guy to make the silver, to ship you the silver, and for me to still make a little bit of money. We've sold 10 already. So out of 50 that we're producing, 20% is gone. So if you're interested, the link's in the description here. You can get it from my Shopify store. And if you're wondering, do I take crypto? Yes, I will take crypto. I'll take anything else too. But anyway, it's there just so you know. I had to let you know. So you got until May 31st to pre-order at 70. After that, the price goes up to 80, but that includes the coin, a commemorative patch to go with it that you'll only be able to get there, and free shipping. So, and it helps support the workshop. So thanks, guys. So with that, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.